TOMOYO Linux demonstration, Kickstarting on openSUSE 12.1. TOMOYO Linux is an access recording and restricting mechanism for Linux systems. In a normal Linux system, every application is unmonitored and it is difficult to determine what is happening in that system. In a TOMOYO-enabled Linux system, each application can be monitored to determine exactly what it is doing. The learning mode automatically records every action that an application performs as a policy configuration. Browsing the policy configuration can allow a precise understanding of what each application is doing. The enforcing mode restricts each application to do only what the policy configuration has allowed it to do. This movie demonstrates how to set up TOMOYO Linux on openSUSE 12.1, and then demonstrates how to analyze and restrict shell sessions. openSUSE 12.1 is distributed with TOMOYO Linux-enabled kernels. Therefore, you can use TOMOYO Linux by installing tools package and changing kernel boot command line options. Initialize policy configuration. Start TOMOYO Linux's policy editor. Since you've just initialized policy configuration, only kernel domain is defined and policy configuration for kernel domain is empty. You can change access control level using profiles. Currently 4 profiles are defined. Profile 0 is for disabled mode, 1 is for learning mode, 2 is for permissive mode, 3 is for enforcing mode. Assign profile 1 to kernel domain so that TOMOYO Linux records access requests occurred in the kernel domain. Quit the policy editor. You've finished all preparations. Now, reboot the system so that TOMOYO Linux can start analyzing. In order to enable TOMOYO Linux, add security equals TOMOYO. The system is booting like normal Linux. But in the background, TOMOYO Linux is recording access requests occurred in the system. Every application is placed into a separate domain. TOMOYO Linux records what programs were executed, what files were read, what files were written, for each domain. You can record access requests occurred in the system using learning mode and restrict access requests occurred in the system using enforcing mode. Each domain can have different access requests and different profiles, to allow for fine-grained control. You've finished rebooting the system. Let's browse what TOMOYO Linux has recorded. Start console and start the policy editor. All activities from boot till now are recorded as policy configuration by TOMOYO Linux. Thus, policy configuration for kernel domain is no longer empty. You can see that kernel executed /s bin/init, /lib/systemd/systemdc groups agent and /asbin/modprobe. This screen shows domain transition re from sbin init. You can see what sbin init has requested. Go to Domain for Policy Editor. You can see that the policy editor is executed from sudo executed by bash executed by kd init4. Do something in this terminal. For example, execute bin ls and bin ps and use for bin id. Read etc. stub using bin cat. Refresh the screen on the policy editor. You can find commands you executed are appended. Also, you can find files accessed by these commands. You will notice that random values are in the path names. You can convert such path names to patterns using wildcards. Assign profile 3 to bash executed by sudo and its descendant domain so that TOMOYO Linux restricts access requests occurred in this terminal. Do something in this terminal. You can see that only operations you did with profile 1 are permitted with profile 3. By using TOMOYO Linux, you can restrict operations for improving security. For more information, visit TOMOYO Linux Project's website at tomoyo.sourceforge.jp.